Chapter 1 of Australia, New Zealand, and Some Other Islands of the South Seas. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Bettyb. Australia, New Zealand, and Some Other Islands of the South Seas by Frank G. Carpenter. Chapter 1. Just a word before we start. For to admire and for to see, for to behold this world so wide, it never done no good to me, but I can't drop it if I tried. Starting on a trip to Australia gives one for the moment the feeling expressed in Kipling's lines. The Never Never Land, as it is called, is so far away, the voyage is so long, and thoughts of the to-be-discovered continent are so full of dreary anticipation. The vast stretches of desert, the monotonous reaches of forests where the trees shed their bark and the silence is broken only by the harsh cry of the laughing jackass or kookaburra bird, the fearful dryness and the awful heat, these things of which one reads so much in the books about the country do not make pleasant pictures in the mind of the traveler. One can go to Australia in 3 weeks on a comfortable steamer from Seattle, San Francisco, or Vancouver. My own trip, however, was taken after a long hot stay in the Philippines, and a leisurely drifting from there past Borneo and down the coast of Cochin China to Singapore and Java. At Batavia I caught a little tramp steamer bound for the east on a route passing through the Dutch East Indies to Torres Strait, Thursday Island, and New Guinea, and thence going southward inside the Great Barrier Reef to Brisbane in Queensland. The itinerary looked interesting, the voyage venturesome, and as I walked on board my heart sang. A day or so later it wept. The meat was atrocious, the bread soggy, the rancid butter oil, and the water lukewarm and bitter. As a whole, my fellow voyagers were no better than the food. For the most part they were a motley crowd of dirty Hindus and Malays, with the flotsam and jetsam, blacks, browns, and whites found scattered throughout the islands. Moreover, 2 of our Moslem passengers developed a fever, which led to our being quarantined at some of the ports. We were 25 long days on the equator, and it was only when the cool breezes off the Barrier Reef blew new ozone into our lungs that life again seemed worth the living. But from the day I landed in Brisbane and started off on my journeyings in the lonely continent to the day on which I once more turned my face toward home, I had no regrets that I had come. Australia was full of surprises and of interest for me. The beauties of New Zealand and the air of its mountains soon drove the evil out of my soul and put new life into my bones. I decided that here was a case where the desire for to admire and for to see that had sent me off to the other side of the world had done some good to me after all. I trust that you too may be glad that I went and that I have set down here the story of what I saw. End of chapter 1. Chapter 2 of Australia, New Zealand, and Some Other Islands of the South Seas by Frank G. Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Bettyb. The Giant of the South Seas. The Australians say their country is the biggest thing south of the equator, and what I have seen here makes me think that they are right. Australia is as big as the United States without Alaska, 25 times larger than Great Britain and Ireland, 15 times the size of France, and 3/4 as large as all Europe. It is a country of magnificent distances, being longer from east to west than the distance from New York to Salt Lake, and wider from north to south than from New York to Chicago. By the fastest trains, Brisbane is 36 hours from Sydney, and Sydney is 18 hours from Melbourne. It takes 3 days and 18 hours to make the trip by rail from Melbourne on the southeast to Perth on the southwest. Australia is also a land great in its resources. Since gold was discovered there in 1851, it has produced $5 billion worth of the precious metal. Gold has been found all over the continent, in the mountains, on the farms, and in the sands of the deserts. Yet the greater part of the country has never been prospected. Vast areas have not even been
Sample complete. Ready to continue?